Today we're diving into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 on the Switch 2, full remakes of the originals rebuilt from the ground up in the same engine as the 1 and 2 remake. Now it's not just nostalgia either, they've reworked everything from visuals to mechanics, giving these classics a modern touch without losing their edge. Now in this performance review, we're looking at the good, the bad, and well, let's put it as the meh. Because while the core still shreds, not every update sticks the landing. Now, if this video helps you out today, consider hitting subscribe. It helps a smaller channel like mine way more than you'd think. And here I cover all things Nintendo Switch, especially the stuff most people skip past. Alright, appreciate you watching, and let's get into it. So first I do want to call something out. On this channel, you're probably used to now side-by-side comparisons, Switch 1 versus Switch 2, frame rate, visuals, all that good stuff. But I can't do that here. I bought this game out of pocket, imported it from Australia, cost me about 100 Aussie dollars, and there is no upgrade path, no cross-buy, no install trick. I tried them all. So just a heads up, if you're picking this up, make sure you get the version you actually want, because it doesn't work backwards compatibility. The Switch 1 version, that will run on Switch 2 just fine, but I can't really comment on the compromises made for that build. Now, physical collectors as well might still want to go that route, because the Switch 2 box doesn't even include a game key card, it's just a download code. The Switch 1 version, for what it's worth, says download required on the box, so it's still unclear how much the game is in there, but at least there's a cartridge. Just something to keep in mind. So let's start with gameplay, because honestly that's what these games are all about. Tony Hawk 3 and 4 are just as addicting as you remember. My fingers were genuinely aching by the end of a session. It's a constant barrage of inputs, grinds, manuals, specials, reverts, transfers, and that muscle memory, you think you've still got it? Well yeah, it turns out I'm nowhere near as good as I once was, but it's still so satisfying to chain a full run together. That core gameplay loop is simply untouchable. What's interesting though is how the mechanics have evolved. Like with the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake, they've pulled in systems from later entries, but this time it's stuff from 4 making its way into 3. Grind extensions, mid-air rebalancing, smoothing out lines that originally had more friction. It all slips into Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 so naturally that you'd swear it was always there. And honestly, it's only a good thing. It doesn't feel like they've changed the soul of the game. It just feels better to play. Faster too, because I swear it never moved this quick. Now the skater roster alongside all of this then is solid too. You've got a bunch of returning legends, of course, but there's also a wave of new faces. Some older names might have been cut, sure, but I'm not as deep into this world as I once was, so I'm definitely fine with the refresh. You'll also then, on this journey, be leveling up each of these skaters through progression, just like before, with a full skill tree that lets you tweak things like ollie height, top speed, grind balance, and more. It is simple, but it's satisfying. I always enjoy messing around with different characters and builds, and that's no different here. Again, the core loop, just as addictive as it's always been. When it comes to modes, then there's actually a decent amount on offer. Multiplayer is here, both online and off, with full crossplay. You've got a nice mix of challenges pulled from across the series, from Hawk, which is hiding and finding letters, to chaining the biggest combos, or simply jumping into free skate together. Just great for messing around with friends. There's also a full park builder, and that's genuinely impressive. You can create, share, and download parks, and some of the stuff the community puts together, it's going to be wild. But the main draw, the thing most people are here for, in regards to modes, is career. And structurally, it sticks to the classic formula, a big batch of challenges unlocked right from the start. You've got score targets, combo lines, hidden collectibles, letters to grab, people to rescue, let's say. Basically everything you remember from the original Pro Skater 1, 2, and 3. And look, it's still fun. Mechanically, the gameplay's great. That familiar rhythm of landing tricks, bailing hard, trying again, absolutely intact. But this is admittedly for me where things start to wobble, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 didn't use that format. It had a proper campaign. You'd skate up to characters, trigger missions, and tackle objectives one at a time. It felt more open, more dynamic, more alive. And unfortunately, that's been stripped out here. I was digging through Reddit recently, looking for others' takes on this, and someone put it perfectly. The Pro Skater 4 levels are huge. They weren't built for this older challenge dump format, so when you try to force it, you feel it. The flow's just not quite the same. It's a somewhat small thing, but it really starts to add up as you go through those locations. And because of that, actually, as well, some of the Pro Skater 4 parks, they've been tweaked slightly to fit the older structure. So if you grew up with these games like I did, you'll feel the difference. The levels from 3, they still play exactly how you remember. Tight, focused, built around that structure. But with 4, things get a bit more confusing. You recognize the layout, the landmarks, the flow, but certain things are missing and it throws you off. It's also worth noting that, as far as I can tell, all of the parks from Pro Skater 3 are included here, but Carnival and Chicago from Pro Skater 4, they didn't make the cut. Now in their place, we've got 3 brand new parks, one of which is a water park. Honestly, fantastic, but it still would have been nice to have seen these inclusions. So yeah, gameplay wise, it's Tony Hawk, it's still a blast. That addictive loop of combos, reverts, manuals, perfect landings, all here still feels incredible. But I can't help but miss some of the cut content, and that same feeling extends to the soundtrack too. And we'll keep this quick, but like, only a handful of the original tracks return, and while there's a bunch of new stuff in the mix, it doesn't hit the same, and that stung. These games, they're defined by their soundtracks, and without some of these iconic tracks, it loses a decent amount of its identity. But with that anyway, look, the soundtrack, we'll talk more about that in the comments if you're feeling it. But for now, let's shift focus, because I know what a lot of you are here for is performance and visuals. How does it actually run on Switch 2? From a performance perspective, then solid for the most part. We're talking a locked 60 frames per second during gameplay for around 90% of the experience, and it feels great. There is a couple of caveats though. When you first load into a level in career mode, there's a short cutscene, usually with the tips and just a quick overview of the objectives. That cutscene runs at 30 FPS, then without warning, the game transitions straight into gameplay at 60 FPS, and that shift, it's a little rough. There's this brief stutter as the frame rate ramps up, and if you were planning to hit a line right out of the gate, it can totally throw you off. What I ended up doing was just restarting the level. It reloads instantly, and from that point on, it's smooth. No stutters, and the same goes for Free Skate. Lock 60 for a good majority, no issue. However, with a couple of the larger locations on long runs, I did notice a few sections that would drop slightly and bounce between 50 and 60 FPS. Very rare, honestly, but it's there, as you can see on the screen right now. I'll leave this running for you. You're going to see that 50 to 60 kind of bracket. Load times then are far from constant, but when they do show up, usually when jumping between parks, they sit around 10 to 20 seconds, dependent on the level. And once you're in, reloads are instant and it feels great. Perfect for retrying challenges. You'll be pressing restart a lot here, or chasing high scores. But I will say the initial loads do feel a touch long. Maybe I'm just spoiled at this point, but it's definitely, noticeable. I also then, more disappointingly, had 2 hard crashes. About 3.5, 4 hours of gameplay at this point. Both on the same level, College from Pro Skater 4. I was just zipping around, once in career mode, once in Free Skate, and the game completely stalled out. Not the end of the world, but it's annoying, especially in an Activision title, because every time you boot up, you have to log into their online service to access multiplayer and a few of the other features. It's clunky, and I really wish they just ditched this whole signing into our system business. Anyways, this now gets us to visuals, and in this department, I'm mostly impressed. This is a fast-paced game, and it holds together really well in motion, especially when you're chaining huge combos or zipping through the environment. Looks really nice in handheld too. I think overall the image quality is sharp where it matters. Lighting does a good job of setting the tone, especially on the outdoor maps, and overall I think it looks nice. You wouldn't peg this as a downgraded port at first glance. Now, if you put it side by side, you're definitely going to see that clarity difference between, let's say, a PS5 and Switch 2. And I will say, the more I played, the more I noticed a few things. The image can appear a little soft in places, especially when you stop moving and taking the textures, ramps, sidewalks, background signage. Doesn't really hold up too well when you're close up. There's also popping when loading into a level or moving fast, and shadows generally quite soft. The draw distance as well, not razor sharp either, so far off detail, can look fuzzy. But yeah, I think half the time you're going to be top speed, pulling out tricks, and in motion, I think it is clean, it stays readable, and in a game like this, that's truly what matters. So that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 on Switch 2. Now the core gameplay loop is still as addictive as ever. I've said that like 4 times this video, but I want to hammer it home. That's what made these games special, and still that is the case. Look, if you're a long-time fan like me, I genuinely don't think you'll be disappointed with how it plays. You know, with Creator Park, Free Roam, modifiers like 60-minute sessions, there's a ton to dig into. Now, the omission of Pro Skater 4's original campaign, that stings. But mid-combo, landing something massive, quietly realizing how bad you've got at the game, yeah, I still found myself personally thinking, and I think you will too, is, just one more go. And that's always been Tony Hawk's magic, let's face it. You know, I've got sore thumbs, broken combos, about 6 unfinished lines, but I'll be right back in there tomorrow. And that's Tony Hawk, and in 2025, that format is still awesome. So yeah, that's Tony Hawk 3 and 4. Will you be checking this out on Switch 2? Let me know in the comments. Sorry I can't do a Switch 1 versus Switch 2 comparison. I don't have 200 Australian US dollars, which I think is about 100 quid for me locally in the UK. Maybe in the future, if I can get my hands on it, I'll definitely take a look. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers all.